Hey, this is Alessio coming at you before the episode with a very special message from one of our patrons, Terry Wolf himself. Thanks, Terry. Terry writes, no matter when you got into the Metal Gear series or how seriously you take it, the time has come to harvest what we can from the games and pay it forward as creators and community members. For me, this meant studying stuff like the dangerous role that technology can play in society, or government secrecy and cover-ups, as well as going deeper into the subtext of creators I enjoy. For you, it may be about the humor, the film influences, or something else. Whatever speaks to you as you play the games or listen to this great podcast, make it part of your brand and your message. Let's make that the true legacy of the Metal Gear series, and remember to fight for what we believe in. Very, very awesome message from Terry, and if you want to be cool just like Terry, you can patronize us at patreon.com/MetalGearMondays and include your own 150-word message at the appropriate tier. We really appreciate you guys' support, and it's because of that very support that we can provide interviews like today's. So enjoy the episode. Thanks, guys. Hey, this is Alessio coming at you before the episode to just kind of let you guys know that we were utilizing some different equipment. We were on the road, we were traveling, and all of us were huddled around a microphone. So if you notice there are some more pops of peas or anything like that, just be aware of the fact that we are kind of away from our typical traditional recording equipment. So apologies on my part for all of my popping. Pop, 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 pop. But yeah, enjoy the episode.
Here's to you, dear listeners, and welcome to Metal Gear Mondays, the most thorough Metal Gear podcast on the internet. I am your host for this week, Sam Wright, and I'm joined live, in person, in the flesh, in Seattle, Washington, by Alessia Summerfield.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
And Isaac Lynn.
Hello, hello, hello.
That was a weird voice. What was that?
Why'd you do that?
This is my voice now. Hello, hello.
Is that one of your characters?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Gerald told me to do this one. He said he liked this one a lot.
Okay. You had a little session with Gerald, did you?
A little private tutorial session.
Private tutorial vocal session. So we're on a goddamn roll, man, with these interviews. We today are talking to Stefanie Joosten. We've been saying her name wrong this whole time. It's not Joosten. It makes a yes sound.
Yeah, if you're from the Netherlands, but Americans just say whatever the fuck they read on the paper.
That's very true, as we did. But I feel like let's say it properly.
Yeah.
Stephanie, say it with me, boys.
Joosten.
Whitney Houston.
No.
I'm
Houston, we have a problem.
Oh, no.
She just hops back on.
Yeah,
she's like,
what are you
yeah,
doing? What are you doing right now? We had a really great, we talked to her for about an hour. We had a really great time talking to her. She's the sweetest person in the world.
Confirmed.
And yeah, we had a really great time. She talked about a lot of character motivations that she had with Quiet and kind of like some underlying stuff. She definitely did talk about the quote controversy around her appearance in the game, as everybody is well aware of. And she actually got a chance to tell us a little bit about what it's like working with Hideo Kojima, because she's actually one of the few people that we've talked to that has frequently worked with him a lot during the process.
Actually worked with him.
Yeah, during the process of the games. It was directed by him directly. So it was really cool to kind of get that kind of inside scoop. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. We're gonna.
You want to do the front plugs?
Yeah, gross. Let's do the front plugs. You can support us. You can find all of the links to all of the things that we do at MetalGearMondays.com. But especially go to Patreon.com/MetalGearMondays if you are looking to support us monetarily. Anywhere from $1 all the way up. We've got a lot of different tiers. You can see which one is right for you. But starting off, you get access to our Discord server, where a lot of listeners are kind of in there chatting and talking.
Everybody but Isaac.
I'm not a patron.
Oh my god. You're a steward of the patrons.
A steward of the patrons.
Yeah, so that means you get him automatically.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Cool.
Brownie points.
Brownie points. Um, so check that out. Chat with us and our fans, listeners. I always feel weird saying fans. It's a weird listeners. Our listeners.
Yeah, they don't like us. They just
don't
like to
actually
listen to
like
what
us,
we're
yeah,
doing.
exactly. And not Isaac apparently. Just like you go on Twitter and get not Isaac, but
Doesn't have a twit. You can get reached out.
But yeah, so $2 a month, we have a special podcast called The Patriot Club where you can listen to us ramble about other random stuff. And that's fun, and we've got a whole bunch of other things like that. Get scoops, get early access to episodes, all kinds of shit. So check those out. And you can also review us on iTunes and other platforms that allow reviews of podcasts if you like. That really
leave a
helps
comment
us.
on a YouTube video.
Yeah, leave a comment on a YouTube video. As of recording, we are very, very close to our 100 subscribers for our custom URL. So check that out. Subscribe, leave a comment. Tell us what we're doing right or wrong.
Leave singular comment.
Leave and comment.
Yeah.
And that it. Alessio, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at AC Summerfield everywhere.
.com. Isaac, where can they find you on the internet? You kind of spoiled it already, but go ahead.
Yeah, I tried, Sam.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. This is a much different experience looking directly into
it was
Isaac's face.
really weird.
Like giving him shit for this when he's like right in front of my face is very strange.
Now I know what Sam does in his bedroom when
Yeah.
we're recording.
Well, you can just reach out and just that little boy, you know. That was us kissing our hands. We didn't just smooch Isaac against his will, but
It wouldn't be against his will. Isaac loves smooches.
It's consent. It's consent.
Yeah, Isaac loves smooches from us.
Yeah.
So.
Doesn't have a twit. And that's it.
one day he's gonna be like, doesn't have a twit, and IsaacWLim.com.
No, man.
Whoa.
What's the W stand for?
He's told us
It's
before.
whatever you want it to be.
Isaac, whatever you want it to be, babylim.com.
Baby.
Baby. You can find me on the internet at Sanjul. That's SANJUUL on Twitter. And that's about it.
Yeah, let's get into the damn interview.
Let's get in there, boys. Play that track.
Stefanie, thank you so much for joining us. It's an absolute
Thank you
pleasure
for
to be able to talk
inviting
to you.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Yeah, where are you recording from this evening for you?
Well, I'm recording from the Netherlands. I'm back at my apartment here in the south of the Netherlands.
Very nice. We actually were just watching earlier this morning a Vice documentary where they
good.
followed you. Yeah,
Oh, that's cool. Well, that's the same space I'm in right now. So I guess you have an image of that now.
perfect. What was it like to have the Vice documentary crew follow you around, invading your privacy?
Well, it was pretty cool to be able to tell them the story of my career, I would say. It's a cool platform. Unusual, like they interview the more like unusual, lesser known people mostly. So it's a good audience to reach too, I think.
Very nice. It's interesting to hear you refer to yourself as a lesser known person because I feel like most of the folks who listen to this show would disagree with you, but I understand.
Well, like in mainstream culture, I still feel like I'm still in a niche culture, the culture of gaming, even though how it's huge worldwide. But I think in the Netherlands, it's still considered a niche.
Was it difficult kind of growing up with that as an interest, given how niche it is in your I guess hometown?
Mm-hmm. It was pretty difficult, actually. I didn't have, especially, I didn't have any girlfriends who enjoyed playing video games. So it seemed like I always felt like I was being told that it's not a girl hobby to have, and it was just pretty unusual. And I guess up until when I went to college, I studied Japanese culture and language, and I I actually found a lot of friends who had the exact same interests as me, and or were gamers too. So it just depends on where you are, I would say.
So we were doing some reading a little bit before doing our research before the interview, and we found something that said that you unknowingly auditioned for Metal Gear Solid 5. What does that mean, and how did that come about?
Right. At the time, I was working for a Japanese talent agent, and I was living there in Tokyo. And I went to lots of auditions for lots of different projects, but I was asked to audition for a new video game that was going to be released by Konami, and that was all I was told.
Huh.
So I had an idea that well, especially when I actually got to the audition, I immediately realized it was a big deal. It was obviously for a big AAA game, and but it was a top secret project. Kojima Productions, they didn't want anything to leak out at that time because it was still it had about 3-4 years to go in development from there, so it hadn't been announced to the public at all yet. So that's why they were so secretive about it.
Nice. You get the secret inside scoop, I guess. When did you find out that that's what the project was?
Well, I had an idea pretty soon after I auditioned, because at the audition, there was this long table of, I guess, like a jury, you would say, and in lots of people were watching the auditions, and in the middle of those people was, of course, Hideo Kojima.
Oh, very nice.
And I actually hadn't been playing the Metal Gear Solid games up until then, but um, I I kind of recognized his face somehow, even though I guess because just being interested in video games, it was a familiar face. So, and it was also like the whole atmosphere of the audition and the scene I got to do. Uh, it was just obviously an espionage theme, and so after I walked out of the audition, I started Googling, and I immediately was like, okay, this has to be a new Metal Gear game.
That's awesome. I hear that there were plastic guns during the audition.
No,
Is that
no.
what was
There
that like?
were. Well, they were actually quite realistic replicas. They were obviously not real, but they had the real weight to them. Um, so they wanted people to pose with them. Well, there were two auditions that I went to, and the first audition was for. They were actually just looking for a model to base Quiet's model on.
Mhm.
And also they were looking for lots of other people to model for different characters, and that was just mostly posing with the guns and like seeing if you had a feel for it and make it look realistic, I guess. And the second audition I went to, that was the motion capture audition, and that was when I was actually handed a piece of script to memorize and do the scene, and also do some improvisation. I was asked to pretend to infiltrate an enemy base, so I had to improvise on the spot. It was pretty funny. It was unlike any audition I've ever done.
So they gave you these like replica guns and just said infiltrate a enemy facility.
Right. Well, at the infiltration part, I wasn't actually holding any guns, but
Okay.
yeah. So I just did some sneaking, crawling, hiding behind boxes and stuff. Well, I guess they just wanted to see if the actors had any feel um, for the whole atmosphere of the game, I would say.
you said they handed you a portion of the script. Did you have any lines on that script?
Yes, it was actually the scene that was the first scene of a Quiet appearing in the game. It was the hospital scene.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool scene. It was really cool to do that at the audition, and it actually being the first scene to record in motion capture as well.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
it's pretty memorable.
Yeah. So before like Metal Gear Solid 5 entered production, you were in a TV series called Gigitsui. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Oh, right, that's right.
Is that right? Okay, cool. What was that like working on like a television program, and how were you like cast for that?
It was. I have to say, it was a pretty small part I had in that series. Um, I was doing a lot of different acting work in a lot of commercials as well. When I was working in Japan, I started out as a model, and after modeling for a while, I actually don't have a theater background,
Hmm.
but my agent was recommending me to audition for acting roles anyway. And well, the system in Japan is pretty different, I would say, from a lot of places in the world. There's more of a hierarchy. I got involved in a theater production in Japan, and you just kind of start at the bottom, and you have to work your way up, and learn from experience.
Hmm.
And I had a lot of experiences to learn from. Just yeah, a lot of variety, and one of those was having a part in Gekitsui. Um, it was about World War II, a scenario, and I had the role of the lover of the main character.
Mm.
So it was more of a supportive part, but it was a very nice production. It was fun to work on.
That's awesome. Have you just sort of off topic, and I'm always curious about this because my mother is Sicilian, so I spent a lot of my time growing up in Europe.
Oh, is
And I
that so?
Yeah, so a lot of my family's in Italy, and I was
Oh, how
actually
cool.
born in England as well. But I it's weird because I work in film in the United States, and a lot of the Europeans that I've worked with that come to the United States say how different it is. Had you worked in media production, where like in your home country before going to Japan and working in media there, and how different are the two? If yes,
Well, before I started working as an actress in Japan, I didn't have any experience working as an actress in the Netherlands. So it was kind of unknown territory to me. I just have a very different background. I grew up having this dream to go to Japan, and I just had a huge passion for Japanese culture. And um, so, yeah, I ended up majoring in Japanese studies. So that was a pretty different route. I think growing up, I grew up in a pretty small town, and I just never really felt like it would be a possibility for me to become an actress in the future. So um, I never. It was always inside me as a dream I had, but I didn't really pursue it, or I didn't have people surrounding me that encouraged me to pursue that dream.
nice.
In Japan, I was surprised to suddenly have this opportunity in front of me, and I just completely went for it.
How surreal is it to be where you are now, considering where you were before?
It is very surreal. It was just such a dream come true, and it was also like two of my dreams just falling together. Growing up as a gamer, and then being able to work as an actress on one of the biggest, most, most legendary series of the world. That was just it's just such a dream come true.
Very nice. You said that you had love for Japanese culture. Where did that come from? What was sort of the catalyst? Do you remember maybe a moment when you were growing up when it kind of triggered for you, or was it like a
Mhm.
slow process?
I grew up as a pretty geeky girl, and I think the first thing that got me in touch with Japanese anime was Pokemon.
Yeah.
I adored Pokemon. It was one of my favorite things, and I watched the anime as well. And then there was Dragon Ball Z, which I loved too. And that was, I think, my first uh, connection to Japan. Just really geeky things, but I felt somehow also the video games I was playing. I loved Final Fantasy games and RPGs in general. But I just started noticing like all these things I like. They're from Japan, so there has to be something special about Japan. And also, I started researching on the internet uh, about Japanese music and films and series, and I just fell in love with the language too. So I felt like, oh, this is something I have to learn it, and yeah, it would even like give me a deeper understanding of everything Japanese. So I was just obsessed growing up.
Can I ask? I want to ask a really quick random question since you mentioned Pokemon. Have
Hmm.
you had the opportunity to see Detective Pikachu yet?
Yes, I went to see it. Yeah, I was
What
it
did
was
you
so
think?
nostalgic to me.
I
Did you
agree.
see it?
I did. It was very cute. It was fun seeing all of them, all of the Pokemon.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? I felt so warm inside to see them.
Exactly. They gave my best boy Sandshrew some love in that one, so I was very happy to see that.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
So, what would you kind of say over the years that your most challenging role has been? And then what would you say your favorite role has been?
Um, that's a good question.
Donna Burke's friend.
Oh, right. That was quite the challenge too. But that was a lot of fun. Um, well, the most challenging experience I had was I worked on a big theater production in Japan. It was called Bansan, and I was the only foreign person in that production. And it sounds so strange too, but it really changed my perspective because, well, I was able to speak Japanese fluently, but there's still a lot of differences you feel. Well, just the culture I grew up in the Netherlands, it's still very different. And uh, it was just, it was a really tough. The Japanese theater world is just, it's pretty tough, I would say. Uh,
Is it that it's like an insular kind of thing where it's just sort of like you have to be in the fold,
Yeah.
or what's tough about it exactly?
well, it was mostly the director I worked with was just a really
Oh, no.
difficult man to work with, and
Oh.
oh, it was just such an intense guy. And we were rehearsing for a month and a half for every day. We didn't have any days off,
Whoa.
and it was really intense. But the director was just so intense. Like every time you acted the scene in a way that he didn't like, or he would just have so much. He would express everything in just expressing his anger. So he would actually throw like bottles at people.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
It was
whoa.
just such an intense guy, and that was just a really tough experience to go through.
Oh my gosh. So it's sort of the Japanese stereotype of like perfectionist, kind of high bar.
Right, but also just having this feeling of um, wow, this guy is kind of crossing the line. It's not okay to treat people like this, because he was treating everyone like that.
Yeah.
And Japanese people were just it has to do with this senpai kohai thing, where there's just a really strong sense of hierarchy, and
Mm.
it's just people are not able to speak up. They just accept what they're being put through.
Gotcha. Yeah, we spoke with a guy named Jeremy Blaustein who actually translated the original Metal Gear Solid,
Oh,
and he, very similar to you, got an interest in Japanese culture and moved from the United States to Japan, and now he's been there for like 30 years, and he's
oh
married and has
wow.
a kid. But it was interesting to speak to him about Japanese culture versus living. Like he's originally from like Long Island, New York, so
Mhm.
it's like the difference between New York City and living in Japan.
Right.
So,
Oh, that's
but yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Speaking of senpai,
Oh,
how would you describe your relationship with Donna Burke?
Oh, she's the greatest senpai I could imagine.
no. Aw.
Oh, she's amazing. I've had so much support from her over the years. I'm so glad I got to meet her through Metal Gear Solid, and it was it was so amazing to be able to do Metal Gear in concert together with her. I hadn't seen her for a couple of years actually, and it was just so great to be reunited.
We had talked to her a couple weeks back, and she had mentioned that you kind of bonded over the idea of keeping the momentum going after 5 was over. How have things been in that respect? Like, have you? 'Cause I
Hmm.
know you guys did shortly after the game came out. You guys did the Steph and Donna show,
Oh,
which
right.
is a treat.
Oh, it was so much fun to work on. Yeah, I guess it was a surreal experience for us both too. When Metal Gear Solid 5 came out, it just reached everywhere, all across the world. And I've just never, that was like a breakthrough in our careers. And just being in Japan, it was just very surreal. But I'm glad we got to work on new projects after that. It gave just the being in Metal Gear Solid 5. It gave me so many opportunities afterwards, um, from a global stage, because before that I'd only been working in Japan, and afterwards I was able to be part of a few films. I worked on a Japanese feature film called Alessandra and the Fitter, and I was able to do my first film in in the Netherlands. It's
Oh,
called Hostage
congratulations!
X. Thank you. Just all of a sudden having these fans all over the world, and being invited to gaming conventions and comic cons, and be able to meet those fans. It has just been such a wonderful few years.
That's awesome. I have a very this question just popped into my head, and I'm very curious to hear your take. After Metal Gear Solid 5 came out in, I think it was September of 2015, if I remember correctly. It seems like shortly thereafter there was the entire sort of drama, or I guess shortly before there was sort of the drama of Hideo Kojima's relationship with the
Mhm.
studio and kind of the split. Everyone's asked everyone, I feel like, kind of what their stance was. Like we've heard David Hayter, the voice of Solid Snake, talk about it. We've heard other people attached to the games kind of talk about their hot take. Um,
Mhm.
what was it like for your big break to also be like the end of this director's like legacy with Metal Gear? Like, how did you feel when you heard that news?
Right. Um, it's difficult to talk about because I am still an outsider to the whole situation. The work on Metal Gear Solid 5 had already been done, so
Hmm.
um, my part was done. But I just felt like it, um, the release of Metal Gear Solid 5, um, it could have been much more of a celebrated
Hmm.
event. I felt like it wasn't celebrated in the way it should have been.
Yeah, no, I could definitely agree with that. I think it kind of got overshadowed by
Hmm.
sort of the drama, if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah, that makes sense. I just felt, yeah, it was just sad to not see it get the attention it deserved.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember leading up to that as well, and I don't know if you've seen it at all. If you
No.
haven't, you should check it out. There was a video that I think Konami put out right before the game came out that was sort of celebrating the release that was impending. And part of that video was Kojima going to this family, I think in like Texas or California, and delivering them a
All
copy of the
right.
game.
Oh, I remember
Um,
that.
yeah, and I remember on like leading up to the game coming out, I watched that trailer and I was just like in tears, like watching that. I was like, "Oh my god, this is
Oh,
insane." Um, so
yeah, it was. It was a very strange situation.
mhm, mhm.
But I'm glad still. I feel the fans, they still all loved the game, I think. And the game was, in spite of it not being released in the way that it should have been, um, it was still, it's adored by many people. And I'm glad it was celebrated on the internet and everywhere in the gaming community.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just felt the developer could have given it more of the celebration it deserved.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right on. So moving forward, you got anything new or exciting in the pipeline?
Well, I'm working on 2 games at the moment.
Oh, oh.
Whoa.
Are you allowed to tell us about that, or?
Yes. They're pretty far in development right now. So
Okay.
I'm just wrapping up my work on them. One is called Space Lords,
Oh, oh.
and I got to play the character Soma, and it's a multiplayer shooter, online shooter, and with just a lot of unique characters. All They all have their unique personalities, and well, the unique thing about my character is that again, she was based on my appearance,
Oh.
Oh wow.
but she looks completely different from Quiet. So I really love how it's just such a completely different style. So that was a lot of fun to also do a lot of vocal work on that character.
Very nice. What was the other game?
The other one is called Last Labyrinth, and it's a VR game from a Japanese developer called Amata. And
Nice.
it's my first time to be involved in a VR game. I was just I got to play the demo, and I was really amazed by wow, what like how VR can be. And it's sort of escape room type
Mm.
of game.
Oh.
And I play the character of Katia, which she's a young girl, and in Last Labyrinth, I'm just voicing the character as a voice actress. So she's again like a completely different character from any.
Very cool.
So that they're both scheduled to come out later this year. So that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, well, typically whenever we put these episodes out, we will do like a website write up where we throw links into the sort of like a blog post.
Oh, that's great.
Um, yeah, and so we'll be sure to go through and drop links to any of these projects or just different places people can find your work and stuff like that.
That's great. There's a trailer out for Last Labyrinth, and actually, I'm singing the theme song for Last Labyrinth as
Oh,
well. So
that's awesome.
you get to hear that in the trailer too.
Very cool. Before we move on to the game proper, you had mentioned the concert that you did at the beginning of the month.
Hmm.
We had talked to Donna beforehand, but now that it's all said and done, how did it go? How did you feel it went?
Well, I was very nervous, but I think it went well. It was just so wonderful to have such a huge audience of people that are just the greatest fans of Metal Gear Solid, the whole series. And I felt like it was just so amazing to have that opportunity to celebrate the series once more. And it was beautiful performing with the Tokyo Philharmonic Orchestra. It was my first time to ever sing in front of a philharmonic orchestra like that. I was just overwhelmed. Wow, it was just beautiful. I wish I could share it with everyone. But for now, it was just doing the show in Tokyo. But it was really, it was an amazing experience. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life.
Aw. Yeah, we when we finished, it was very surreal. Donna, we'd reached out to her and she was like, "Yeah, I'll talk to you guys." And somehow we ended up talking to her like the same night that she had responded back
Oh
to us.
wow!
Yeah.
And it was like 10 minutes after we finished talking to her, she's like, "All right, boys, I've got to hop in a cab and go to rehearsal now." And
Oh
we were
wow,
like,
that's
"Oh
amazing.
man." So I'm sure she saw you and spoke to you like
Yeah, she
right after she got
mentioned
done
your
talking to
show, your podcast.
us.
She
Hopefully
did.
good things.
Yes, yeah. She was telling me, yeah, you have to talk to them.
Oh, very nice. Oh, that's very kind of her. Yeah, we had a lot of fun speaking with her, and we have a lot of Australian listeners.
Oh, really?
And I think they really appreciated hearing just her story and I don't know, just seeing another Aussie.
Right. Well, it was amazing to see Donna perform. It's just wow. Her voice is just so full of power, and she just did amazing. The fans loved it.
Yeah, is there any way? I'm not sure. I wanted to verify. Is there any way for fans to see any of that performance? Like, is there any sort of video that would release, or is there a clip on YouTube or anything like that?
Well, no. I'm pretty sad about that. I wish I could have shared it with more people, but at this time they weren't recording the concert. Um,
Understood.
yeah, I hope they'll be able to do another one in the future. Who knows? Um, yeah, I just that's a strong feeling I have too. I wish I could share it with more of the fans.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, as far as I know, there isn't any footage,
Gotcha.
at least of my performance. There isn't.
There were a lot of beautiful photos. I remember on Twitter, it seemed like Donna was retweeting quite a bit, and one
Oh, right.
yeah, one of the things that I've noticed, and we've actually shared it kind of on our Twitter feed as well. I don't know how you do it, Stephanie. You seem so happy anytime you're on camera.
Oh,
And so
really?
like I can't no one I can't tell if you're nervous or scared because you just look ecstatic and excited every time we see a picture of you.
Oh.
So congratulations on looking not
Well,
nervous.
thank you. I'm glad I come across like that because I was pretty nervous, but also at the same time, of course, so excited to be part of it.
Hmm.
So that's funny.
So being cast for something like Metal Gear, kind of unlike traditional film and TV work, there's got to be a lot of, let's say, imagination involved in acting a scene in an empty room. Was it difficult to kind of sink your teeth into this abstract um, idea of acting, or did it just kind of come easier to you than you expected?
Well, I think the whole team of Kojima Productions, they did a great job in preparing the actors for the parts, at least for the motion capture. When were doing the motion capture, that was really there was hardly any kind of 3D environment or footage they could show us because it just wasn't there yet. And they had this whole wall of concept art, and we got to look at those to get a sense of what it would look like. And that really helped a lot. And also, Hideo Kojima was there every day, and he was just really, he really went into detail about every scene and what there was supposed to be and what kind of environment we were in. So that was really helpful. It was still a lot of imagining.
Did you have any kind of
um,
like creative flexibility with it, or was it kind of like, here's what we want, go do that?
for most of the scenes, Hideo Kojima was pretty specific about what he wanted. He has a pretty clear idea of what he wants, I think. But there were still opportunities to be creative. There were a lot of like little fun cutscenes. I remember the birthday cutscene.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
And I was recording that together with Eric Brown, who did the motion capture for Snake or for Big Boss. And it was a really comical scene, right? So he would arrive back at Mother Base, and you would hear these bangs, and they were supposed to be firework. So there was fireworks going off, and Eric just suggested, like, oh, should I just pull my gun out and act like how Big Boss would be like if he senses like a dangerous situation. And it was just a really funny idea, and Kojima immediately went with it. He was like, oh, that's great, yeah, let's do that. And it was just really fun to have these little comical scenes where there was just a lot of room to be flexible and creative.
It's really interesting that you just told us a story of Kojima being open to improv, because I think never in a million years would I have thought that based on his reputation that I would have thought that he'd be open to like, oh, okay, yeah, that looks great. Like, so that's very cool. Thank you for kind of sharing the reality of what that looks like.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed those little, just funny, playful scenes in between. Also, the scene in the rain, quiet, kind of dancing in the rain with Snake. It was just a lot of fun.
Have you seen? So notoriously, fans have gone in and replaced you with Ocelot for that
Oh
scene.
yeah,
Have you seen that?
I've seen those. Those are hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I wanted to ask you, Stefanie, just because, and this is probably going to date our episode a little bit and kind of tip our hand to our longtime listeners when we're recording this. The reason why all of our voices sound kind of shot is because we've been at a convention for the last 3 days. And we got to talk to David Hayter, who voices Snake, and Kim
Oh
Clark.
wow.
And while talking to them, I guess it became pretty apparent out of all the interviews we've ever done that nobody's ever really spent time with Kojima, but here you are, having seen him like every day in the studio. Can you tell us a little bit about like his direction style? And I mean, I don't know, just like his personality, because I think you might be the only person we've talked to who's spent a considerable amount of time with him.
Right. Wow. I didn't think of that. I guess it's pretty unique to doing the motion capture because it was done in Japan, and well, I think a lot of people don't realize how much time goes into it, and it's such an essential part of bringing the characters to life. And well, at least I think it's something Kojima loved doing as well, because he really got to be a director on set, just like a movie director would be. So he was really involved for every scene. Yeah, he would just run through all the scenes. Sometimes he would even, if he was pretty specific about a certain way, like for instance, even Quiet, when she jumps out of the helicopter to enjoy the rain and kind of be dancing there in the rain, he would kind of like show me an example of like, I want to see something like this, and he would just crawl over the ground, and he wasn't embarrassed to do any of that. He was just so involved in it, and it was so much fun.
Nice. With how enigmatic and, excuse me, quiet your character is, I think one of the things that I've sort of been curious about, both from like a filmmaking background and like as a Metal Gear fan, is I guess what sort of character direction and like motivation that you were given. So like, I think especially, and this is kind of jumping towards the end of the game, but especially towards the end of the game, I think when Quiet leaves, there's a little bit of, I guess on the player side, sort of this fondness and relationship that's been kind of cultivated throughout the game. Were you given any direction that like Quiet does have any sort of like feelings or relationship or romance for Venom Snake, or is that purely just like fans kind of clinging to your character and not wanting to see you leave?
No, I at that point there really is a strong bond, and throughout most of the story, it's a little ambiguous. While I interpreted Quiet being like, well, she was very conflicted about her mission, and then feeling touched by being accepted by Big Boss like that. And she definitely developed feelings. So, but it was pretty interesting because going through the motion capture, there were actually like, I kept being told like it completely depends on how on the play style of the player, how far this relationship between her and Snake will develop. So I don't know if this got into the final game, but sometimes we would even record different patterns of the same scene, and they would be different depending on how close the relationship between them would be. So I can't quite remember what it was like exactly, but
Was it just sort of like minor
yeah,
detail kind of stuff, or was it bigger?
right. But, I remember now the dancing in the rain scene. If the relationship wouldn't be as close as it was at that point, Snake would come up like he's holding Quiet's boots, and if the bond is not strong yet, she would just like take them out of his hands and just like coldly walk off.
Oh wow.
And I'm not sure if it's in the final game. But I think like most players, they really accepted Quiet, and I'm so glad to hear that people feel there is a bond, and they choose to take Quiet with them as their buddy. And yeah, it's just great to see like people choose that path. So they are accepting Quiet as a character, and that just feels very, very flattering to me, I think.
For sure.
We had a listener question from Brandon Parks. He mentioned that the Quiet's portrayal brought some controversy. How do you feel about that regarding her physical depiction within the game, especially considering that she's one of the few female characters?
Well, as soon as I got involved, when I heard I got the part after auditioning, I immediately went into research mode, and I played through all of the Metal Gear Solid games. So, having played all of them, I didn't quite finish Metal Gear Solid 2, I have to admit.
Oh no, that's my
But
favorite.
yeah, and I got stuck somehow, and it was just pretty hard. But playing the games, it just really gave me a sense of what the characters are like, and I feel, like people are so quick to see Quiet and complain like how she's sexualized, and but I think the same goes for some male characters in the series too. And I think the characters are portrayed in a fair way. They still have their distinct personalities, and well, I just think people are too quick to judge about just going off looks,
Right.
and not really actually getting into the character's story arc.
What was your opinion on Because I want to say that Quiet is probably taller than you are in real life. I don't know if that's true or
Oh,
not.
she
But
is.
yeah, what was your sort of thought on seeing the final character? Like, did they ever show you sort of, hey, here's now that we've got you modeled, here's what you look like? Did you have a reaction to that?
Well, the first day of motion capture, I was shown the concept art for Quiet, and it's really close to what she looked like in the game. I think it's also in if you have like the concept art books, it's well, it's just the most well known concept art for Quiet. So I of course I was surprised. Like that was the first time for me to see that she was just wearing a bikini and these tights, and I was I was surprised. I was like, oh wow. But on that day, immediately, also Yoji Shinkawa was involved, and he and Kojima talked to me about um, the whole condition of that Quiet had, that she had to breathe through her skin, and also how they were inspired by. I think they were calling them like scout soldiers, and they were drawing inspiration from. Apparently, it happened in real life at some point too, that people would actually be scouting naked, because it would also be really practical to not having a lot of gear on that would make sounds.
Mm.
And yeah, I was also told a lot about the way they would move, and just being really stealthy. So that was really interesting to just see like the whole idea that went behind the design.
Yeah.
So I was mostly just intrigued.
Yeah, working on the project, I don't know how it works on a set like that, but were you aware of any of the plot points, like the twists that happened at the end, or you just kind of working with what day to day was given to you?
No, we were me and all of the motion capture cast were had a whole briefing about while going through the whole story, and yeah, also the plot twist. And it was they were very clear about that was such an essential plot twist. It was compared to like how you shouldn't tell someone who hasn't seen Star Wars yet about Darth Vader being Luke's dad. So we were told it was that big of a thing.
Mm.
So of course we had to sign an NDA and make sure we were very discreet about it.
Nice.
One of the when we were covering 5 for the show, one of the things that we had come up with was wondering why Quiet maybe didn't communicate with a venom snake with sign language. Do you think that would have worked? Do you think that would have solved some problems at all?
Um, well, I just think she wouldn't. She would never consider that. There was also a lot of hesitation on her part about her mission, and in the beginning, it would work to her advantage to just not communicate at all. Yeah.
Nice. Theory solved. We can go back and tell our fans. Stephanie, I had a quick question, sort of more kind
Mhm.
of personal question. So Quiet is like a very what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of reserved person, I think. I think based on at least her depiction in the game, she doesn't really I don't know, it's weird. She doesn't share anything until the end. Um, do you find that like that sort of reservation resonates with you, or are you more of like a super hard on your sleeve, very open person with people that you know?
No, I think it does resonate a little bit. I grew up being pretty shy of a person, and I'm pretty introverted. Um, so um, yeah, it's something like growing up, I've learned to be more open, but it does resonate with me. And also, I think Quiet had a strong sense of feeling isolated. She was she was treated as she was seen as a freak by most soldiers at Mother Base. So um, she must have felt so isolated, and um, it also, well, not being able to communicate. There was just this sense of loneliness on her part, um, which also kind of it reminded me of when I came to Japan for the first time, and I was just starting to learn Japanese, and I wasn't able to say what was on my mind or to express myself, and that's a very frustrating feeling. And it reminded me of that feeling, and I think I channeled that throughout my performance.
That's interesting. Did you, I guess, other than your relationship with Donna, did you, living in Japan for a bit and kind of being in this weird solitude, like you described, did you find it hard to kind of make friends or make relationships? Like how long did you go before you had somebody that you could talk to in Japan?
Oh well, it wasn't. it, I made a lot of friends pretty
Nice.
quickly. Also in Tokyo, just there's a huge international scene, so there's I think more acceptance, and it's just more international. So people are not as surprised by you having a different face. When I During my studies, I actually lived in Kyoto for 1 year, and I had a feeling like it was just um, much more unusual for Japanese people to see a foreign person, and that was interesting to experience that, to kind of be viewed as someone just exotic or foreign. But then again, the people are just really kind and warm. As soon as you start talking Japanese, sometimes it's just that they're scared, that they're so shy about or self-conscious about, I can't speak English very well. And then when they realize you're able to speak Japanese, they're so surprised. It's just not in their expectations.
Donna was telling us about her constant reliance on Google Translate. Did you ever have to translate for Donna?
Not really. She manages. I don't know how she does it, but uh, I I do think she has a decent understanding of Japanese, so it doesn't really get in her way, I think.
Nice. Yeah, she definitely made it sound like she was just sort of like, yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm not very good. So I think she was just being very coy about
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
I guess going back to the games and with Quiet Story, if they had continued it, where would you have liked it to see Quiet go, or the direction of her character?
Wow, that's a good question. I was so sad on that last day of motion capture, when I was recording Quiet's last scene, and it was so emotional. Yeah, a part of me just wish to see see Quiet have like just and they lived on happily ever after kind of ending. I think she would have been really happy being at Venom Snake's side and fighting with him.
Well,
Because I think her ending was probably one of the most emotionally impactful portions of the game. Um, and there was a whole lot of, I remember there being a whole lot of backlash to the point where they patched in the ability
All
to get her
right.
back after she left.
Yeah, it was amazing to see how much that impacted players. I wouldn't have, well, I had no idea how to what point people would, how connected they would feel, the quiet. So I was really happy to hear that people were sad about it, even though that's a strange way to say it.
Yeah.
I'm happy that you're sad.
I mean, because it means you did what you intended to do, which is always awesome.
Yeah, I think so.
Nice. Well, Stephanie, we want to make sure that we're respectful of your time. So I want to ask Isaac and Sam if you guys have any sort of questions before we enter sort of the wrap up.
I had one quick
Of
question.
course.
You're one of the few people we've spoken to that actually does play not only the games that you are a part of, but games in
Mhm.
general. So I was curious, what was the most recent non-Metal Gear thing you played?
Oh, let me think. I have to say I'm not playing a lot of games recently. I have been enjoying Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Okay.
Being a big Star Wars fan, I really enjoyed that. I'm a big Final Fantasy fan, so right now I'm really looking forward to the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yeah.
Not sure how long it's going to take until it's there.
Maybe 20 years from now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I used to play a lot more video games back when I as a teenager. But yeah.
Yeah, I had a more off-topic question. I mean, it's
Mhm.
what's the music scene like over there in the Netherlands, and what's like, what kind of music are you into right now?
The music scene. I listen to a lot of different styles of music. Uh, I listen to a lot of indie music.
Nice.
Yeah, there's this. It's not very recent, but there's this band that I love. Let me see. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it the correct way. I think it's Breton.
Breton.
Breton, and they have this album called War Room Stories, and I'm completely in love with it.
Nice.
It's a very cinematic style of music. It's one of my favorites.
I think we're all frantically Googling it so we can listen to it later.
I have to put it on my list.
Stephanie, we've got a listener who's actually been in Afghanistan for a while, which is interesting because he sends us pictures. He's out there doing some contract work, but he'll send us pictures and be like, "It looks just like Metal Gear Solid 5."
Oh, that's so cool.
And when his name is Zach James, when he heard that we were talking to Donna, and he heard the mention of Metal Gear in concert, he wanted to know if Metal Gear in concert would ever come to Afghanistan.
That would be so cool. Yeah, I'm hoping that there's going to be more Metal Gear in concert in the future, and I unfortunately I don't know if they'll be able to hold more in different places. It really depends on Konami's plans as well. Yeah, I definitely hope to take part in them again.
Well, if they ever do go to Afghanistan, you've got at least one big fan out there that will for sure.
That's great to know.
Mm-hmm. So Stephanie, before we kind of wrap up and get to the end of this, I wanted to ask, being like a big Final Fantasy fan and having interests outside of games, even, what would be sort of like ideal world, sort of paradise situation? What would be your dream project?
Oh, wow. At this moment, I'm not sure if I have just one dream project. I really just hope I hope to keep working on video games because I feel so personally connected to them. But yeah, since I'm doing more film work now too, maybe like someday I would love to be in a big movie production. You know, I would love to if they would make a Hollywood film of Metal Gear Solid 1. I think I would love to play Meryl.
Ooh,
Okay.
Very nice. Yeah, we actually just spoke with Debbie Mae West, Meryl's voice actress,
Oh,
and it was
that's
super
cool.
interesting to just hear about that whole experience. But yeah, there are people who want to see a Metal Gear movie get made, so I don't know how far fetched that is. You might get your wish.
Who knows? It would be really amazing.
Well, very nice. Stephanie, I think that's all the questions that we have for you. Where can people find you online? Where do you want to send people? We have listeners all over the world. So, I mean, if they're interested in you, where can they find more of what you're doing?
Well, I think I'm the most active on Instagram. So you can just find me at Stefanie Joosten, and it's mostly where I keep people up to date about what I'm doing, I think, or Twitter. But yeah, I hope people will get to see the last Labyrinth trailer, and also Space Lords.
Hmm.
And I have actually an animation series coming up, but it's still pretty far in the future. It's called the Genyu Project, and I will be voicing one of the main characters in that.
Very cool.
That's awesome. Well, cool. We are extremely excited to have been able to speak with you, and
It was
two,
my pleasure.
we're very grateful that you took time out of your day. So thank you so very much, and yeah, we really appreciate it. And from our listeners to you, hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Perfect.
And yeah, I love that your show is called Metal Gear Mondays, because I think Mondays are like the hardest day of it's the hardest day of the week for people to get through, I think. So it's cool to give people something exciting to look out for.
Yeah, we get a lot of listener responses that are like, this week's going to be terrible, but boy, am I glad that we've got another Metal Gear Mondays episode to listen to. So,
That's great.
yeah.
All right, so before we wrap up, we do this thing where we kind of stumble our way to exiting the interview by saying it's just a box, which is something that the guards in the original Metal Gear Solid game said when they saw Snake sneaking around. And I was wondering if you could give us, in your best quiet impression, it's just a box. Right on. That's perfect. Thank you so much.